Welcome to the AACFB's 2023 Meet the Funder webinar series. My name is Monica Harper. I'm the Executive Director of the AACFB, and I will be your host. Our presenter today is Stephanie Viata from American Capital Group. American Capital Group is both a funding source member and a platinum sponsor of the AACFB, and I'd like to thank them for their support of the association. Before I turn it over to Stephanie, I'd like to go over a few items to make this webinar more enjoyable and informative for everyone. During the presentation, you should see a Q&A box that allows you to ask questions. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit your questions in the box, and they should be answered by the end of the webinar. Please reserve the chat for communication between attendees. The entire webinar should take no more than 30 to 45 minutes. For those of you who would like to review this webinar at a later date, it will be posted on the 2023 Meet the Funder page of the website, and it will be emailed out to the AACFB membership. At this time, I'd like to turn it over to Stephanie. It is all yours.
Thank you, Monica. Hi, everyone. Glad you guys could join us here today. As Monica said, I'm with American Capital Group, and we are very excited to be a continued sponsor for the AACFB. It's one of our favorite groups to be a part of, and we look forward to seeing hopefully many of you at the expo here coming up in September. So I'm going to get started today. I'm going to talk about a couple different things, just the basics of our funding broker program so you guys can get a better understanding of it, and some new updates that we've had recently compared to when we did this last year. So just to begin, for those of you who may not be familiar with American Capital Group, we are a direct lender. We've been in the industry doing this since 1995. We are backed by private capital. So with all the recent changes within the market with the Fed, we've been very minimally affected by that because we do have our own private capital. So we've been able to remain consistent across the board, and we don't have to make as many changes as the market moves. Digital process here that we've written here too as well. So we do a click to fund process that we really have mastered to make sure that the process is simple for you as the broker to submit and then get the deal funded through us as well. This to talk about a little bit about what you can expect from ACG as a partner. Our team is committed to helping you to make sure that your transactions fund with ease. Our team is experienced. Most of the people on our broker relationship team have over 8 years of experience in the industry. So they've seen a little bit of everything, and they want to make sure they can help and do that in a timely manner and very communicative beyond that. So you get to talk to not just myself or another broker relationship manager. You also get to talk to our credit analyst, our funders, so that you can get the transaction through, and as well as so you can get the information back that you need so you can communicate to the customer. We want to make sure that you are not, going in blind to anything, that you feel that you can communicate effectively and understand kind of what we are needing or why we're asking for what we're asking for. Wide credit coverage here for American Capital Group. We're really proud of this because we are a direct lender. We're able to have that wide coverage. So we do go from A to that D credit profile. Here in a minute, I have a slide kind of on what those credit profiles are like. And so we do cover that coverage. So whether you're needing to fill an A-B kind of profile or you're needing that C-D credit profile, we generally can fit that for you. Most of the brokers who I work with and everything else, we either fit into a need they have. So if they need that kind of certain credit that they're missing within their current lender profiles, or they love to use us as kind of their first stop because we do have that wide range, they're able to know that, hey, ACG can look at this and kind of figure out where this customer lies and get within the range of what they need. So what do we do? What do we fund? That's generally the major question that I get most when talking about this programming is, what do you guys do? What do you like? So new and used equipment. We do both of those within the vendor and private party and auction areas. So in the new and used equipment area, like it says here, construction, restaurant, fitness, medical, waste management, We do those. We really focus in more on the non-titled component of equipment. That's what our bread and butter is. So within that, the reason why we really do mention the private party is that we do private parties for non-titled. So requires a little bit more paperwork when doing those types of transactions, but we've been doing it for decades now, so we kind of know what to do and what to get, and be able to help you get the correct paperwork to get that through so we can fund those transactions, especially during the later parts of 2020, 2021, and here into 22 and 23, we've been seeing a wider amount of used equipment really being more prevalent. And so that's been an area that we've been able to help assist a lot of brokers in with that. I already mentioned A to D credit profiles starting at 550 and up. And a couple of slides, I'll get a little bit deeper into what that entails. We currently now we've adjusted our program a little bit as far as what our appetite is for funding amounts. So we start at 10,000 and we go up to 250,000. Previously, we had gone up a little bit higher. We did a recent kind of look of all of our fundings over the last several years and realized that we are really focusing and really funding most of our business between that 10 to 250,000. And so we've made a decision to stay within that range so that we spend more of our time on the things that we're funding more than those larger commercial transactions. Our app only within that is up to 150, and I'll get into that here a little bit more detail as well. We do startups, businesses under 2 years. I have a slide in here as well that I've got to discuss that because that's become more and more of a request from our broker partners is the startup business. So I'll cover a little bit more of that, but we do that. And then the structures that we fund we do equipment finance agreements, 101 buyouts, 10% buyouts, and then a true FMB lease. So across the standard there on structures. We only do equipment financing. We don't do any kind of working capital, real estate, any refinancing or of that nature, just straight equipment financing. So here, I just wanted to get a little bit more into the equipment and industries that we like and we don't fund. Like I said earlier, we focus a lot on non-titled equipment. And so you're looking at your construction, your landscaping, manufacturing, yellow iron. We've been getting a lot and seeing a lot of good approvals in the refuse and waste management as well. So that's what we like to fund generally. So if it's non-titled, it's a good piece of equipment that's gonna, hold its value. Like most funders, we love that. And so we'll do those again as new or used, vendor, private party auction, all the above. What we don't like to fund, and what we don't do, we don't work into the cannabis industry. We don't fund copiers. I've been seeing kind of a little bit more of an uptake in that in the last kind of quarter or so. So copiers, we do not finance. We unfortunately don't finance the forest and logging industry as well. That's something that I get a lot of kind of interest in or asking about. Just not something that we do. And then we've recently stopped funding medical spas and aesthetic equipment. So just something that we looked at as an organization and kind of thought through very cautiously. And that's an area we won't be able to be funding transactions for. So, but we do medical outside of that. So your ultrasounds, your dental, your standard medical equipment, we do and will continue to finance. So credit profiles, what does it mean? So what is an A, and a B, a C, and a D for American Capital Group? There are all lenders kind of have our profiles, but what does it mean and what does that kind of fit for us? So what you'll see here is our A+ profile. So we do have a rate that starts at 599 here for A+. The key factors of the A+ rates and what qualifies for that is listed right here. So you'll see biggest thing is there is a FICO and that they have a PayNet and they've been in business for 5 years. So that PayNet score is very important. They have to have had comparable business credit history and payment to see that. And then this is also only for those that are getting a hard collateral. So your construction equipment, your irons, manufacturing equipment, those are going to be the ones that qualify for there. If it's restaurant equipment, gym equipment, those aren't going to fall into this A+ category. They'll fall into the A range. So that is that A+. So there's that one. On A, you're seeing the profile here too for a 675 FICO. They have a pay net as well, 5 years time in business, and those start at 7%. This is on these kind of when you get into the A, B, and C descriptions here and kind of the profiles. This is the general of kind of what they look like. So it's not like, hey, they have to fit in this box to get that A. I have plenty of time have seen sub 675 scores get an A rate. I've seen sub 625s get B. I've seen even below a 550 get approved. I want to mention that from our standpoint, and one of the things that I think is really important when submitting with American Capital Group is to understand that we look at the whole entire picture. So it's not just, hey, what's their credit score? What year time of business have they been in? All of that. We also take into account, what the industry they're in, what kind of equipment they're actually getting, how old is that equipment? What is that? We take all that into consideration when we're looking at the transaction. So the deal is submitted into us, the system starts to score out, the analyst takes a look at it and makes a determination based on all the information provided. So when you get your approvals back with us and they fall, let's say you thought you'd get an A and it got a B, there's probably some more information that's there that kind of led to it. That's when I generally will come back and say, hey, make sure that you reach out to the analyst to ask them specifically if you have questions on why it got there so that you have a better understanding of how it's being reviewed and why it got to where it got. And our analyst will, reply back to you and let you know kind of what they saw that led to that approval. Back into the B's and C's, you can see kind of there on this end. These are all right here listed credit profiles. These are for all of our businesses that are 2 years or more. So these don't include our startups as far as what the requirements are to fall in these areas. So as I mentioned, our app only is up to 150 for these. To get into this area, submissions are pretty simple. Your credit application, the proof of time in business, so Secretary of State or a tax filing or whatever it may be to prove that they've been in their business for that time. I always recommend that. And the reason why is because our team will always go ahead and look for that. But in situations where either the customer has changed names or there's they were a sole prop and now they're an LLC, having that information ahead of time can help get you a stronger approval and help clear up any communication or confusion between when our team sees what they see and pulling the reports that are active today versus what their historical has been. And then we only require with submission 3 months bank statements for transactions over 75,000 in this app only program. So if it's under 75,000, you're not required to have bank statements with submission. I always recommend that if you have them and they're strong, definitely send them. They're only going to help your approval. If you don't submit them and then our team takes a look at that and the information that we have on, we're able to have access to and that we review, there's not enough there for the analyst to make a approval, then they'll ask for those bank statements for review. So if you have them and they're good, send them. If you don't have them and you're moving through and you're just getting the approval, go ahead and send it over. We just may pin it for that later. Okay, so the new business program. This is for any business under 2 years. Within that, under 2 years, they can have just filed their business. So they could have gone down to fill out their paperwork to file their business yesterday. As long as they are filed with the appropriate way in their state. So whether through their Secretary of State or if it's in their county, as long as they have that proof of filing for that business name, we can start to consider them for the new business program. We only consider A or B credit profiles for the new business program. So within that, you're looking at a 675 or better generally on their credit score. We'll also look for 3 months bank statements. Personal and or business are required for any startup program. And here you'll see kind of, I always get asked, the main thing is like, how much do you approve for startups? So 50,000 is about the average, right? Even across the industry for under a year. So that first person starting out to up to a year, 50,000 is going to be about the max they're going to get. I have seen people kind of at that year mark that have really strong banks, a good credit score, get looked at and approved for more than that. But 9 times out of 10, it's going to be a $50,000 max. Once they're over a year and a half and with good equipment there and a good pay history, they can actually qualify for more. Recently had a customer that our analyst approved for $90,000 that had been in business for, I think it was like a year and like 3 months. So there are these situations where we do look at the case-by-case scenario to get those. So I always recommend that, hey, when it's over that year timeframe, go ahead and submit for what you're kind of really wanting, with the understanding that, hey, I may only get the 50, but if it's got the chance that it's got a good package and it looks great, we'll consider it for more. Then the one thing I like to really mention on our new business program is that we approve our transactions. The standard approval is going to be with 2 advance payments and then the full financed amount. So generally, there's not a down payment for the majority of when we issue an approval. Now, when we, in situations where we can get a better, if there's an opportunity for down payment, so if the customer has the money, right, to do a down payment, you'll want to let us know that, because that could help them get a lower rate. It could also help them get more financing. But most of our standard programming is just going to be for startups, is we look to approve them with no money down, just 2 advance payments, and then we finance the full amount. If they don't qualify there and we need to get a down payment to get them to get comfortable to give them an approval, then you'll see that. So if you get an approval with 2 advance payments with no down payment and the customer has money to put down and they're willing to do that, you can always reach out to the analyst. Hey, what if they put down like 10, 15, 20%? What would we look at kind of for our rate on that end? I mentioned earlier our click to fund process for the streamlining of the funding process to make sure that it's simple and efficient for our broker partners. And this is it visually of kind of how that process works. We take our submissions through email or portal. So we have a portal. We've customized our portal. It's been built internally by us. So it's very simple, has the necessary information on there, very straightforward into that. So you can submit through that, or you can email into our team. The key factor on either way you submit is whenever you get a notification from us saying that we've got your transmission, our team will be back to you shortly. So when you get that email notification, that means that it is hit, it's in the conveyor belt of our approval team to start looking at transactions. And you should have a response within 2 hours from when you receive that email. That response is your approval. That response is, hey, we need some more information, some clarity on this. Or, ACG's not going to be able to work with this transaction, and here's why. So regardless if when we approve, we ask for more information, or if we decline a transaction, you're always going to get a response back from our team with some explanation to it. So we value that in giving you the reason why we're declining it, so that if, it's just not a fit for us, but maybe it's a fit for your other lenders that are in your relationships, then you can go there and know that it's there. As someone who does look for PayNet, and we do consider paynet and looking at that. Sometimes that can be a burden and a hurdle for some transactions, and there are some lenders who don't always consider paynet on that end. So it can be an opportunity for you to find that at another lender, or if it's just not a fit for us based on something else, then you can always look to see if, hey, if this is worth your time or if it's not. That's the reason why a lot of brokers will come to us first with their transactions, because they can see if it's worth spending more time on their end or moving on. Doc requests. So we create all of the docs for you. You put in your requests through our portal system. Our team creates them, then sends you a PDF of the documents for your review and for your records, so that you can answer any questions when the customer has them. And then you let us know that it's time to send them. We send them via DocuSign directly to the customer, and then keep you up to date as to when they've signed them and how it's moving through the process. Once we fund the deal for non-titled transactions, we pay you at the same time that we pay the vendor. So the vendor gets paid, you get paid on non-title transactions. For title transactions, we pay you once we have the confirmation of the transfer of title has come through. I mentioned a little bit about broker portal, that we've created this internally ourselves, but it does really house like everything that you need for our program. There's the submission page. Within the submission page, and we have a payment calculator that allows you to go in and price out your transactions from when you get your approval. You can go in and do that. I have a couple brokers who actually will go in. They've worked with us for a while now. They kind of have an idea of where that approval is coming back. They'll go in and kind of pre-price a deal to kind of figure out where it'll be at, to see if the customer would be, good with that kind of price range in there. The payment calculator also lets you know, as well as the submission page, it already has built in any state or program restrictions that we have. So for example, in California and New York, with disclosure laws, American Capital Group only does lease transactions in those states. And so when you go in and go to submit a California transaction, it'll tell you right away, like, hey, American Capital Group only accepts fair market value leases or 10% buyout leases for these states, so that you won't get through a whole submission page, submit it, and then get an auto response back from our team being like, hey, that's not something we do. We try to help you know that beforehand. Also, it'll just let you know some other things that are in there within, so that you can you don't have to always go to the broker guide to look at what are the restrictions that ACG has. It's built in there too, so that you know that. We have uploading through there as well. So as everyone's kind of been apprised too of some of the privacy laws and everything else that's going on, it's a secure way to submit and transfer information. And then we also have a chat feature on our portal as well. So if you're having issues when you're submitting, or if you have a question about whether or not why this is that, or whatever it may be, our team is there to help you and answer any questions that you have to help you get through those. I generally see a lot of the chat comes up when somebody's got an error message and they don't understand it. Our team jumps on there and is able to help them resolve that quickly, instead of spending forever trying to figure out why you can't submit your deal. So how do you work with us? How do you get set up with American Capital Group if you're not set up with us already? Pretty straightforward. So we have an application for you to fill out that's online. Once that application comes in, our team reviews that, does a check on everything. We do ask for 2 industry references that we can contact. Those industry references can be other funding sources, or they can just be other industry contacts. So other members of the AACFB, other service providers that you've worked with as well. We're just looking for those references to just kind of touch base on you and your company practices. And then we have an agreement, a broker agreement that gets sent to you once you've been approved, once that application's been reviewed and approved, an agreement to sign. And then once that's signed, you are ready to start submitting and funding transactions with us. If you'd like a copy of our broker guide, happy to get that for you. That, of course, has more detailed information, all of this, as well as some of the ins and outs, such as, hey, what is our points? How do we pay on points? To answer that question, we give you, in your approval, we give you a buy rate. And from that, then we have point caps on how much can be added to that based on the amount being financed. So for under $50,000, it is up to 15 points. From 51 to 100 is 10, and then over 10 is 8. And again, because in our portal as well, if on our pricing calculator and everything else, that's all built in there as well too. So when you go into price your transaction, all of our caps, everything else is built in. So if you do put in an amount over the cap, it lets you know like, hey, you've exceeded the cap amount, this is restricted, and then you can reprice from there. This is how to get a hold of us. Our email address, you can email that to get that broker guide I just mentioned. We have our broker services team phone number there, as well as our website that has more information on our program too. We are still accepting new brokers right now. So if you are just getting started or you've been in the industry for a while and needing a partner to fill in one of those gaps, we'd be happy to talk with you about how it'd be a good fit. So that is us. Monica, do we have any questions from anybody or?
We do have a couple questions.
Okay.
And before I read them, I just want to remind everybody, if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box and we'll get that answered for you. First question is, what's the max approval amount outside of app only?
250,000. So that when you get above 150 to 250,000, we require financial documents. So 2 years financials, interims, and oftentimes they'll want personal and company, depending upon, what kind of the structure of the business is.
Great. Do you do generic docs? What do you do if a customer comes back for you for another lease financing? Is that referred back to the broker?
Great question. Yes. So within our system, any deal that comes in through you is tagged and put into your broker account. So when that customer comes back, and if they want to do more, we automatically notify you that the customer has come and is wanting to get some more financing, and then let you take over that to talk to them again to see what they want to do and everything else. Our team will oftentimes get a little bit of information for you so they can help you out and let you know kind of, hey, they let us know they're looking at this, this, and this, so that you can get a head start on that. But we will always refer it back to you for that.
Great. Term ranges. What are your term ranges?
So our terms are 2 to 5 years, so 24 to 60 months.
Okay. Says, I may have missed it, but do we email for the broker application, or do we go on your website?
You can do either. So you can go onto the website, or you can email. Either way, we can get that to you. There's a form on the website that'll then get emailed to us, and we'll reply back to you through that, or you can go just email it directly.
What about light beds, aka red light therapy or tanning salons? Would that be considered med spa?
Yes, that would. Yeah, the aesthetic equipment would be would fall underneath that.
Okay. General timeline from application submission to decision.
Under 2 hours. So if you've got all the information and we've got enough to approve the deal and we like it, we'll approve it in under 2 hours. If it needs more information, then we'll request that back to you. And then as soon as we have everything that we can make a decision on, we'll do that. Try to do it as timely as possible because no one likes to leave a deal sitting out there wondering what's happening with it.
Great. Does ACG have a direct side of the business?
We do. So we have a small group. Like I said, we've been in the business since 1995. And so the great thing, if you've been to, if you're at the conference last couple of months back, our president, Carl, actually spoke about our company and how we actually started as a broker back in the early days, and then grew into a funder now. And with that, we have some people who have stayed with us over time. And so we have that direct side of the business. It's about 5 people on that side. We keep them completely separate. It's very important to us that those stay very separated and we don't cross over. So house databases are kept separately. No one gets into either, and we respect those boundaries.
Lester has his hand up, so I'm going to unmute him. Lester, do you have a question you want to ask verbally? I don't know if he's already typed it or not.
Yes, I actually typed it in on that direct site. Thank you.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
Did I answer that enough for you, Lester?
Yes, no, that was good.
Great. Do you do generic or private label docs?
So we can look at that for partners who have been with us for a while and have a stable flow of business. So it's not something we offer out just straight out in a relationship. After some time of working together, portfolio and just getting to know each other, then we can look at doing those for you.
Great. Those are all the questions I see. I'm going to give it just a second to see if anybody else. Here we go. Is there a minimum time in business you require for your brokers and minimum volume?
Great question. So no for both, actually. So time for brokers for length that you've been there. No, we work with people who are just kind of starting out to moving, who've been in there forever. So we like to work that, and we kind of support you based upon how you need that. A lot of the newer brokers love our system, and that because we are so responsive and you can talk to so many different people here, you get to learn a lot about the industry and learn some things. And so we kind of feel like we're also helping the industry as a whole, the more that we kind of help you get more accustomed and understanding of how processes work and what things mean, everything else. It just means that it's gonna be better across the industry for all of us. And then as far as a minimum for brokers, no, we don't have a minimum as far as what you need to either have funded or submitted per quarter or for the year. We just really more focus on what is the quality being submitted and what's being moving through and being funded. So we give reporting out about once or twice a month on kind of where your approvals at and your submittals and your funding is at. So we just kind of keep an eye to see, hey, what's going on. So then if there is something where we're getting a lot of submissions and we're getting some approvals, but no fundings, like what's happening there, so that we can have a conversation to kind of understand like where we're not getting these deals done together through. And that's where we can really figure out how we best can help you and how best this relationship is going to work. We understand that we're going to fit where we're going to fit for everybody, and we want to make sure that fits good for both of us.
How long does the broker approval process take?
So generally it's about 24 to 48 hours, depending upon how your references and how quickly they kind of respond back to us. That's generally what takes it a little bit longer for us to get through.
I don't know if this is a question for you or the association. Do you have any educational resources for equipment leasing brokers just starting out?
The AACFB has tons of those.
I was going to say we do for our members. We have an online education library. All of our we have several different training modules on there, and then all of the webinars that we do are recorded and put on the website for members to watch later. So if anybody has any questions about that or trouble getting in, just email info at aacfb.org, and we'll be happy to point you in the right direction. Next question is, I'd like to get a broker guide, and I will send you this person's email address.
Perfect.
Do that.
We can handle that.
Do you offer any discounting?
So yeah, we do, again, on the same kind of standpoint, we start to work with you as a typical just standard broker programming. And then once we kind of have that relationship and we get that, see how the portfolio performs in those type of natures, then we look to offer more programming to you as far as discounting, private labeling, all of that.
All right. I think we've gotten all the questions answered. Since there's no more questions, we'll wrap up the webinar now. I want to say a big thanks to all the participants, especially our valued funding source member and platinum sponsor, American Capital Group. Thanks for a great job, Stephanie. We invite everyone to meet with American Capital Group in person at the Commercial Financing Expo coming up this September in Orlando. Thanks again for joining us and have a great day.
Thanks, everyone.